SA Foundation. Siyathemba nizolijabulela lolu hlelo.
Salmonani again bafundi ba grade 12 be-computer applications technology. Nikhumbula ngesonto ledlule senza i-database, so kuleso lethi siwenza i-revision ye-database. Igama lami nguSanelo kaMsibi. I will be presenting the topic namhlanje or i-lesson namhlanje. Khumbula njalo ukuthi siyatholakala ku Facebook kanjalo naku YouTube. Uma ubheka lapha lo Go Digital SA Foundation uzokwazi wathole lama videos noma ngase isikhathi sokwadinga ngaso. Njengamanje la ku screen sakho into engipresenta yona, I've presented you with a database. In the interest of time ngivele ngayivula database so that sizovela siqale senze i-revision. We're gonna make just one database as a cover for the whole lesson. Maybe before we start the database, we need to remind ourselves of the input mask character sheet. This is very important for you to always remember. Ngenhlanhla ke yakho ke le character sheet yakho le ihlezi khona in your papers masubhala iphepha lakho. So for 0 no 9 you should understand ukuthi this one is for digit, 0 while 9 is for digit or a space. So this means mabe ukuthi ufakile u9 uyakwazi ukushiya space umuthanda, but also again you may put in a digit. Kodwa uma ufaka u0 you cannot leave a space or you cannot put in a letter. Now UL is for your letter while the question mark is for an optional letter. So you may put in UL or else you may not put in a letter, more for a question mark. While UA is for a letter or a digit, but this A is optional. So either on the input mask, you'll have to put in something. Either you have to put in a letter or you have to put in a digit. While A it may be optional for you. Now again, I repeat that these characters are gonna be there on your exam paper like or explain. So you need to make use of them. Alright, now moving on to the paper then. Paper later we are required to open the database. So I've already opened the database data. It's named 5 status. Now this is my database. Database I mean our objects of 5. 2 tables, 2 queries, and 1 form. Now remember on grade 12 we are only do query, form, kanjalo na report. So these are the 3 main things that you to understand normal users. Now again, we've got 2 views here, or we've got a view here, whereby you can decide to change our view to design view or to datasheet view. But because this category, query, it may not necessarily be a query view or a datasheet view. There are ways. Okay, let me just open it so that you remember. Here we've got a datasheet view, SQL view, and design view. So these are the only 2 views that you may use. Datasheet and a design view. When you have opened a form, you've got form view and a design view. So it's not a datasheet view, go to win will be form. So same thing applies. Go to query, it's gonna be a datasheet view, same as a design view. No table. No table like has got datasheet view, no design view. Okay. Now I'll close the database because I understand, I've seen how frustrating this can become. At times, it's told to move to close the database, I'm very and told to evaluate the database. It becomes a little bit frustrating, especially amounts of form no query. So remember, this is where you actually close your query, your table, or your form or your report. Question number 1. Open table 1. Table 5_1, table in design view, and change as follow. This is table 5_1. So once you get in here, you cannot make any changes on this unless otherwise you change the view. So your view here is design view as you have been requested. Now once you allow design view, number 1.1, move the name scientific field. It is an advisor. These are the field name, remember. The minute you field that you just go straight to that field. Because I've seen in the past abantu be require with further information it may be an input mask, it may be a validation rule. Kodwa ifakwe field esuke wrong. So I always advise ukuthi uma ngabe kuthiwa nje move to name scientific field, go straight to name scientific field. You never go wrong. Noma kuthiwa yona uyibhale into oyibhalayo, you know ukuthi uyibhale la for into uyibhale khona. So what the question asks here is for you to move the name scientific field to above the survey ID field. So here, this is survey field. So law this is how you do this one. You get in here, your cursor will change. Once your cursor changes, let's say you click cursor yakho. When you click cursor yakho, shift automatically iba white. So when you see white, it allows you to drag. Drag uzobona ngesquare sakho lapha esikhombayo ukuthi yona this box can actually be moved, and then you move it up there. Number 1.2. Oh, my excuse. Change the field. Let's do this. So that's gonna be easy for us. So what am I supposed to do then? Okay, VM doesn't allow me. Okay, let me just highlight. Okay, now number 2. Change the field to a field where data always must be inserted. I'll highlight this one because we're about to finish it. Now, we talked about this last time. Whenever data must always be inserted, required. Required is how in details last time. You cannot leave this field required is yes. So again, applies with the question. If you question to change the field to a field where data always must be inserted, we are going to communicate in terms of this. But this means your field must be a required field. 1.2. Use an input mask. Input mask data sheet. Use an input mask to restrict the input of data in the survey ID field as follows. Remember, in the survey ID field, you just go straight to survey ID field. Now, this is what you are required to do. One of your code restriction, bafuna ukuthi usebenzise capital letter wakho, and then bafuna usebenzise a digit, and then bafuna usebenzise an optional character. As you may have actually calculated the part here. These are the parts that they are referring to. It's a capital letter L, and then it's a number, and then it's an optional letter. So it may be it's an optional character, so it's gonna be a space. Let's go back and verify. Yes, it's an optional character or a space. So optional character or space sisebenzisa uC. Now this is how you're gonna do this thing. One requires capital letter, sizofaka uL. But remember one thing here. For your validation rule, uL wako is always big. Uhlezi ungama upper cases. So it doesn't matter ukuthi uL wako akusho ukuthi mawufaka uL sefanele ukuthi automatically abe mncane umuntu ufuna abe mncane, abe mkhulu umuntu ufuna abe mkhulu. It always fanele ukuthi abe bigger. Kodwa in the case whereby you are required ukuthi uL wako ube capital letter, you have to put in greater than. So it knows now ukuthi uL wako sazoba greater than noma sazoba mkhulu. And then one required digit. So uma digit required sisebenzisa u0 then. L0. And then any optional character or a space, then sisebenzisa uC then. Because uC now futhi kuzoba capital letter. There we are. So this is your letter, A uppercase, this is your 0, this is your C. I'm gonna change, and then I'm gonna change the view. So when you get in here, which field was this? Okay, let me go back. Survey ID. Okay, let me start it again. So it's gonna be greater than L, number 0, and C. Enter. It's survey ID. So this is your survey ID. Okay, something is not working here. Validation rule. L 0 C. Okay. Yes, yes. Because what happens is kufanele mabe lento ngiyibhala la phansi. I see. Capital letter. No, something is not right here. It says you must use L as a capital letter and 0 and C. One required capital letter, so it's gonna be L, and then one required digit is gonna be 0, and then any optional character it's supposed to be C. Okay, I need to close this database and maybe open it again. It doesn't make sense. Okay. We've got to table 5.1, and then we change the view. Survey ID, just need to verify. Use an input mask to restrict the input data in a survey ID field. Okay, I'm supposed to turn this thing off. Validation rule. Because even in the inverted commas now are not supposed to be happening. So it's greater than L, and then it's number, and then it's C. No, something's not right. Let me take it off. Okay, let's move on to the next question in the interest of time. We're going to have to come up with a plan there. But let me reassure you something. If ever it happens in your final exam, but when you change your view, outside board that you as it may have required, they don't actually mark outside board. They actually mark the length of so they're going to be marking your greater than L, they're going to be marking your 0, and then they're going to be marking your C. So this means uzowathola ephelele ama-marks akho awu-4, including greater than lapha. Okay, let's move on to the next field. The endangered field indicates if a species is endangered or not. Change the field to a more suitable field type. This we are about to do. This we need to clear it because we have to come back to it. Labor phone to even because value already it will text. So bafuna to change a more suitable type because it must indicate if a species is endangered or not. So that is much easier because it's supposed to be yes or no. Remember, this one is supposed to be endangered. Awukwazi ukuthi ungasebenzisa u-short text uma kuyibhalelwe yes or no. Kufanele ukuthi ube specific ukuthi yes or no. Let's move on. Change the threatened field so that yes or no field will display as a checkbox. Now, this actually means uma ngabe ushintsha i-view yakho here, lo threatened wakho yes or no. Abamfunike manje ukuthi abe yes or no, bamfuna abe a checkbox like this one. So when you change your view to design view, I'm gonna read the question again. Change the threatened field so that the yes or no field will display as a checkbox. Now, I assume a checkbox. How do you do that? You go down here, go to field properties. You come down here, go look up. There's a few drop down arrow up here. Go look up, and then you choose a checkbox. Then you save, and then you change the view. Now you see it's no longer yes or no. So I have to change over the text box. We also did this last time. There's also a number of options that includes a combo box or a checkbox. And there are also ways which the information you can actually decide to choose in none. But that only applies not to checkbox, but to combo box, because you can actually put in a source here for there. So I'm gonna go back to a checkbox and then I'm gonna save. Moving on to 1.5, the date stats field. So the main to know date stats field, you take your mouse and you put it here on the date stats field. The date stats field indicates the date the numbers of the spaces were checked. So when you change your view, you can actually see, okay, where is the date stat field? So usuku ezacheckwa ngalo, the date stats field indicates that the field numbers of the spaces were checked. Use a validation rule and a suitable validation text on the date to only accept the dates between 1 January 2021 and 1 June 2021. So remember again, validation rule yakuthi isebenza kanjani. Where is the dates? Okay, kufanele ngibuye lapha ku general. It's date and time. So again, uma uya ku validation rule bese ufaka date, it may not actually work because it data type yakho ayisiyona date and time. So see through it whenever you're talking about date, nalapha no data type, it's supposed to be with date as well. Okay, this is how you're supposed to do. Here on validation rule, you are supposed to say a date between 1 January to 1 June. Kumele ukuthi kube yiyona esebenzayo. Use a validation rule and a suitable validation date to only accept lama date lawo mabili. In a normal circumstances, ngingathatha le formula yami le njengoba njalo between 1 January ngiyicopy and 1 June ngihambe ngiyipaste lapha ku validation rule yami and then paste it, because this rule actually applies to Excel. But whenever I press enter, what's going to happen is ngeke uzuvuma enter, because I understand the operator ukuthi ukhuluma ngani uma ukhuluma ngo-1 June noma ukhuluma ngani uma ukhuluma ngo-1 January. So now this means kufanele ukuthi understand something on your computer here, down here on your computer, kufanele ukuthi uhlezi ukukhumbula lokho ngaso sonke isikhathi. Uma i-computer yakho ithe i-format yakhona 2021 09 04, usebenzisa the very same thing futhi nakhona lapha on your computer, so on your database. So kusebenza bani laqala kusebenza 2021, so you can use the very same format 2021 as it's written there, but in case manje it's January 1, and then here again it's 2021, now it's June 1, then you press enter. How do you see ukuthi le formula yakho sukuyibhalile right now? Between wakho b wakho uzoba mkhulu, u-a wakho u-end u-a wakho uzoba mkhulu. Your dates are gonna be azokukelezelwa ama hashtags ngapha emaceleni akhona. So this is how it's supposed to be. What does this mean now? It means i-database yakho izobheka ukuthi ama-date owabhalayo whenever you are writing ama-dates azobe enjani. Lama date akho lawa azobe between uJanuary to June. Mangabe engaphandle kaJanuary to June ayizukayivumela. Another thing engihlezi ngiyikhumbuza abantu ukuthi this thing is always easy to understand when it comes to validation text. It's very rare bazothi khona validation text yakho kumele ibhalwe ukuthi. They always gonna say use a validation rule and a suitable validation text on the date to only accept date. You see now, abazama zabakutshela ukuthi ithini validation text. They only said use a suitable validation text. This is my advice. Advice yami ukuthi you take a validation text khona la ngaphakathi into your question. In this case, they said only accept. Isiphumile validation text yakho. So I'm gonna copy this one so that ngeze ukumusha full isikhathi ngakho ngidlala phansi kibhala. And then I'm gonna paste it here. Only accept dates between 1 January 2021 and 1 June 2021. This is my validation text. Press enter, I press save, and then I change my view. So when you get here into the dates, because it's date and time, now it's September 2021 and it's today. So now for it and then press enter, it won't do it. But based on inquiry based on the validation text on asset dates between 1 January 2021 and 1 June 2021. So if I were to change and put in a date between 1 June and then press enter, we are going to because we are May. So this is actually how it's gonna work. So I'm gonna save this one. I'm gonna go back to my design view. Okay, this part is covered for. After that, you can save and close your table and move on to the next question. So you just press here, save, and you don't have to close as I have mentioned earlier on. You don't have to close the whole database here at the corner, but rather you close only the table. The next question. We're coming back to this question because we have to see it working. The next question, open the form from based on the table status table and change as follow. So now umubheka lama object ethu, we've got a form a lot of pair 5_2 5_2 5_. Open the form from, okay, I think it was 0 long. We don't need. Open the form 5.2 form based on table status. That is my form. So when I'm on my form, I don't have to change the view unless otherwise I am asked to do so. But you never come to a layout view. We never use my layout views. So the only views that you are supposed to do is a form view, or else you are supposed to use a design view. Okay, let's go to design view. Now, these are the instructions that you are supposed to work with. Replace the, here is your design view. Let's look again at the question. Replace the form heading. Replace the form heading to threatened status. Now I'm just gonna copy this one and then we'll change 5.21 lawyer because I am actually required to change it to threatened status. That's my threatened status. Okay. That is the simplest instruction that you can actually work with. So umusoshithi view yakho uyisa ku form view nangu threatened status wakho lapha. Now moving on to the next question. Fill the form background with the picture 5 space found in the examination folder. Now mubheka la your examination folder. Okay, at the moment my folder is hidden somewhere. I'm gonna go and look for my folder on my Saturday data. But your folder will be on your examination folder because whether you'll be working with one folder as a examination number yakho, examination center yakho. So what kind of a picture am I looking for? I'm looking for 5 space. So to 5 space again, where's my 5 space? That's 5 space. So I'm copy 5 space for now. You make folder engisebenza ngayo ngoba iyona folder le esiyidingayo ukuze azokwazi ukuthi no u5 status ami akhumbule noma azi ukuthi ngisebenza ngayiphi file. So I'm going to close this folder and continue working with my database. Here they require you with the background yalapha ishintshe ibe isithombe. Now there are ways of doing that. You can always go to format and then there's a background image there. Now almost of your background image, you browse the folder. I may not actually have to take the folder, the picture from Legacy code, because I can always go to pictures, I can always go to downloads, I can always go to a whole lot of space. But this time around, I know which folder I am going down. Ingaphansi kwefolder yami engisebenza ngayo vele ewubani Ithala. So I'm gonna go under Ithala and then I'm gonna go under unyaka sikwana 2021 and then I'm finding my picture there. But it may happen that some circle is placed somewhere else, so you'll have to browse your picture from wherever. Let's go and then you press OK. Then this is your picture. It becomes a background image. Moving on, fill the form background with the picture 5 spaces found in your examination folder. So this is done. Now change the font color of the data in the text boxes to black. Change the font color of the data. Now this is another thing that's a little bit complicated here. Now this is the data and it's not actually black. Even when you change your view here, it's to get gray. So you are required to change it to black. Now I'm also max 8 or unfortunately what our 8 marks. So you cannot actually tell how much marks they're giving you. But when you change this, you have to do it in design view again. You have to click it in here and then you have to go to format. Don't worry about a particular format in a particular home. Most of the thing was tola la go home, nangalo go format. They work more or less like the same. So nanti font group yakho, nanti futhi text formatting group yakho lapho. They work more or less the same. So when you click in here, you can just say your color is black. I'm just gonna use my control key on my keyboard. So let's go over highlighter, bonke, same time. And then I'm gonna say black. So we're gonna say black. So maybe you may not see it now. I'm gonna save it and then I'm gonna change the view. Now it's black, unlike before, while it was gray. Okay, moving on to the next question. Change the font color of the data in the text box to black. Okay, this question is done. Maybe I need to highlight the question. Okay, this is the next question. Change the reason for status change field to a combo box with options genuine or non-genuine. Now this means so for siyobheka manje le part laba ifunayo ukuthi ibe combo box. So ipart abayifunayo ibe combo box, what reason for status? And now reason for status. And reason for status wethu masishintsha i-view. This is our reason for status. We are not seeing any drop down here. Kanti bona abafuna ukuthi sibe ne drop down yosinikeza genuine no non-genuine. So we'll have to change our view to design view. Masifika la, the very first thing, change the reason for status field to a combo box. So how easy is this? You just right click and then you go up there, you say change to a combo box. But still, that does not necessarily mean when you save, it doesn't necessarily mean ukuthi usuzomthola genuine no non-genuine, because awuzange uzubhala. So ukushintsha kwakho is not enough. You know what is enough? What is enough for you? Ukuthi uhambe uye kuma properties ala. Bese uyahamba uya ku data yala, because you are supposed to put in the data. Ngaze nganqena ukubhala. So ngithatha ugenuine wami lapha ya, ngiyamkhopha, ngiyamfaka as part of my raw source. Khumbula njalo, it has to be lento ngingakhuluma ngayo ku table ukuthi isource yakho, it's called the raw source. Now mawuthi igama udinga amagama awu2, you're gonna say genuine and then you're gonna use a semicolon. Gonna use a semicolon and then you're gonna put in non-genuine. That's non-genuine. Then you're covered. But any frustration again here is this one. Let's change our view to form view. When you get in here, you see it doesn't allow you to click in genuine or non-genuine. There's nothing in there. So iyona nto frustrated kancane ke ingane ke leyo. Ngoba phela manje naku umsebenzi wenzile lapha. Kanti leso spacing ishile noma ngishiyanga. Let me just prove it to you. That's my genuine. So my source kahle on this form does not exist. So it's as if lento ngiyibhalile manje ayikho kahle kahle. So sesibuyela back there. You are not supposed to use a raw source yakho as a table or a query because it's not there. This one ubuka to ibhale wena yourself. So it's gonna be a value list. So when you change your view, you're gonna have your genuine and your non-genuine. That is how it works. Remember, you are supposed to change your view and then you add my property sheet and then you put in your raw source. And here on your raw source type, remember again, your raw source type is a come with table or a query, because we use a value list. Okay. Next question. Remove the time field in the form footer. Now, a time field it actually allows us ukuthi sikwazi ukusibona isikhathi esukenziwe ngaso. Now, we ngapha on your view in the form view. This is the time field. This is exactly my time currently. So what you need to do, you need to change the time field down here. Okay, njengamanje asibonakala because of isithombe sethu. But whenever you do that, just gonna drag this one down here so that it's a special channel. Here you know date and down there you know time. This means now form footer yami. Form footer yami mangibuka kule view engapha ile part le engingeke ngize ngikwazi ukuyithinta. This is my form footer. This is my date and then this is my time. So I change the view to design view. and then I get in here. This is a simple instruction. You are just required to remove the date. You click on the date, and then you press delete. Okay, moving on to the next question. Okay, we are covered this one. We formed day 2, so we no longer have to worry about it. We just close our form. We don't need the property sheet, and then we just close our form like that. Okay, let's move on to the next question. The next question here will be create a query. Now, whenever you are creating a query, my apologies, whenever you are creating a query, there are only one way of doing so. You go to create, and then you create a query using a design. Other than that, the only time whenever you are using a wizard is when you are using a form or when you are using a report. We always use with design when it comes to query. So let's check. Create a query 5_3 based on the table status as follows. Again, this is very important to always remember. Something also is based on something. Whenever you are creating a query, because people find realize that a query based on a particular table. Aphinda shithi table lakhe abonta ngifaka uthole wrong angifaki le table. At times umuntu abonta isana ngifaka itable lami eli wrong befana ngisebenzise another table, not this table. So I advise about when the short, whenever you are asked to use based on a particular table, you see through it what you are using the right table. So let's go back to query that you are required to make. Remember, we already have query 5_4, no 5_5. But in this case, you are required to create query 5_3. So as I've mentioned, we are using a query design. So we're going to click on query design once. And under tables, we have got table 5.1, no table 5 status. Under queries, as we have seen here, under queries, no 5.4, no 5.5. So this is how they actually look. My point again, create a query based on the table status. So you have to make sure to save table status. Then you add your table 5 status as it is required, and then you close. Unless otherwise you are using relationships with your table, you not need to find a table out tula. It's a lot or you query out to create a query 5_3 based on table status. Display the spaces and a common name field. So amafida wafunayo spaces. This is spaces, and then this is common name field. Le ndlela engisebenzayo yoku-add ama-field yenye izindlela esiyisebenzayo as we have read last time. You can always decide ukuthi ngizosebenzisa uspaces ngokuthi udrag ulethe lapha ezansi, or you can decide to usebenzisa spaces ngokuthi double click. They work the same. So depending ukuthi wena yiphi option or prefer ukuyisebenzisa. So njengamanje what you are required to do, we are required to use spaces no common name field. Then next thing, sort the records alphabetically on the spaces field. So whenever you do that, ufuna ukubukela lapha kusort wakho. So sino sort oqondene no spaces, sino sort oqondene no common name. This means ngoba we are required to change or to sort it alphabetically, seems ascending order under spaces. Because again, when they put a wire under common, no one is gonna go and look under common and be able to beg it, because it also get data about to shoot is over wrong mouth if again. As you remember in your theory, garbage in, garbage out. So remember, if feed the motherfucker, you always see through it to fire. Sort the records alphabetically on the spaces field. You go straight to the spaces field, and then you sort it. Display only the records where the common name. Display only the records where the common name is available. So for you to actually understand this one, see, we have to change a view. Some different types of spaces. Then here go common name. Kunendawo eswezi blank icon. So the instruction says, le ndawo lezi eswezi blank azingaveli. Akuveli indawo ezinjani ezingekho blank. So ngibuyela back here, display only the records where common name is available. So la engekho khona ama common names akumela kuvele. So la ku blank khona like this akumela ukuthi kuvele. So I'm going to change my view to design view, and then I'm going to come down here to common name. Again here, there are two ways of showing the into. For an example, if you were to say false here, and then you run, you're not going to find any common name, because we tell you now you're getting a common name of phonetic value. If you were to say here no, and then you run it, I was load. But if you were to say here yes, and then you run, uzovela. Okay, if you were to say 2, if you were to say 2, and then you run. Okay, what's happening? Common name, criteria. Okay, if you were to say yes, enter, run. Okay. Because here it's actually null and it's actually not null. So you're supposed to use the criteria 18 null. So if you are to say something is null, it means there's nothing here on the space. So this is how it's actually supposed to look like. So when you change the view and then you say not null, once you press enter, you notice not null wakho uzoshintsha ama views akho, ama capital letters akhona ka n naka null abamakhulu. So here on your common names, you find ukuthi usunani usunayo yonke information yakho kuma spaces, asekho spaces kuse blank. So whenever the instruction says to you display only the records where the common name is available, so you're going to use not null. So that ngoba lonto leyo inokuthile noma in information ngaphakathi kuyona. But if ever you are required to put in information where a common name is not available, then you're going to be supposed to use null. But see, this is how it works. Maluku ukuthi information yakho le blank ufuna yona uzothi not null, then yonke le part yakho le blank ayizukubonakala. When you change the view and then you say is null, you're gonna find ukuthi yonke le information yakho loyidingayo blank ayisaveli. I hope I make sense. So in this instruction, you are supposed to only display the records where the common name is available. So bonke laba abangekho available bayaphuma, uvela kuphela laba basuke be available. Okay, so we're done with this query 5.3. Let's move on to 5.4. Change the query 5.4. So what you need to do here, you need to close this query and you need to save. So we are asked to save our query as 5_3. Another thing that you must remember again, you can complete the whole query on save. You are able to change your view to design view, you are able to change your view to datasheet view. I didn't query for you doing so. Unlike a table, once you have any change, you will save. Next question. Change the query 5_4 query based on the table status table to display in the data view as in the example below. Now, in the example below, what we have here, we have ama species ahlukahlukene. Lama species akho lawa angama amphibians aw 57, ama bonefish aw 22, etc., etc. So what you are required to do here, you are required to uveze ama count of red list ka 2020, uveze ama numbers akhona. So this means whenever you're changing your view here on your table, this table, wonke ama bonefish ehlangene njengoba wabona ehlukahlukene kufanele ukuthi avele ukuthi mungakho size wakhona. Wonke ama shark nama rays njengoba wabona kufanele ukuthi aveze ukuthi mangakho ama numbers akhona. So yonke le information le abakhuluma ngayo iku 5_4. So I'm going to open 5_4. underscore form, I already have the list here. So the best way for you to do this when you change your view is to group them. So once you group them, it becomes a little bit easier to understand ukuthi ama-bonefish azoba wodwa, ama-flowering plants azoba wodwa, nama-amphibians azoba wodwa. 5.4. So let us go to grouping now. Let's say, let's create another table here, or rather acquiring design. It's based on our query 5.4. Oh yes. So we are supposed to group them by count. So we're supposed to use star count. Okay, let's run it. Right, let's change it. Group by count, and then you run it. You see, this is how it's supposed to look like. Based on this picture, ama-amphibians, they're supposed to be 57, ama-bonefish, they're supposed to be 22. But uma ibuka lapha sithombe sakho lesiyana, i-view yakhona indlela abayishintsha ngakhona, this view here, you have to click it like this and drag it ibe sekuqaleni. So this is how it actually looks like. And another thing is, umubuka futhi lapha on picture kuqala ama-amphibians kuze ama-bonefish, ama-butterfly, futhi kulandelana ngani ngama-order, ama-species. So uzofanele size lapha ku-sort, sithi sort according to a red list, and then I'm gonna run. Supposed to have B, amphibians, bonefish. Okay, amphibians here, or sabonagad. But actually the whole idea is for us to display the picture as it appears down here or up there. Okay, next to the question that is required for us to do, the values in the level 2020 and level 21 indicate the seriousness of the threat per species. The lower of the value in the field, the more threatened the species is. Change the query 5_5 query to display a list of records where the level threat increased from 2020 to 2021. Hint, create a new field where the difference between the field can be determined. So what you are required to do here, you are required to change a query with a list of records where the level of threat increased. So here we are supposed to work with 5.5. So 5.5 where to now we are going to close 5.4 so it means it's puzzleness, and then I'm gonna save it. u5.5 wethu ubuya kanje. So i-level list yakho noma i-red list yakho la ka-2020 here it was 2, then ngo-2021 isiwubani isiwu-3. So it changes le yama-snipers yakade u-10, so ngo-2021 isiwubani isiwu-3. So yakade u-least concerned, now it's critically endangered. So kunama levels akhona ashintshayo. So what you need to do here, you need to understand ukuthi you need to change noma you need to show lower, you need to understand or you need to show ukuthi difference yalama levels yethu lawa isimi kanjani. So the values in the level 2020 and level 2021 indicates the seriousness of the threat per species. The lower the value in the field, the more threatened the species is. So mabe ukuthi value yakhona la isincane kakhulu, it becomes, it should see much more threatened. Mabe since example mabe siwu-2, so it's critically endangered. What the message of 5 is just endangered. So mu-8 it's near threatened. So ama level akhona awafani. So bafuna ke manje ukunderstand ukuthi i-difference yakho between level 2020 and level 2021 yakadinga kanani. So let us move back here. Create a new field where the difference between the fields can be determined. Now this is how you actually do this one. You change your view to design view. Now mufika la ku design view uza la ubheke ama level. Another thing ufuna ukukhumbula ukuthi spelling se database once wasibheda kancane yonke information yakho usuyidinga usungeke usayithola. Igama le field lethu sizoyenza ngamabomu ibe u difference. So we're gonna say difference and then we're gonna open sizosebenzisa semicolon. We have to write in level 2021 njengoba njalo. When you do that, we use a block bracket. Now, why do we use the block bracket? It database, it will read the block bracket, will read your field to my block bracket to compare. My block bracket, it won't read it as a field, it will read it as something else. So the field that level 2021 for it, for a database which was which you found, the final to figure block bracket. Okay, njengamanje isifundile le field yakho le. If you were to press enter and then run it, you're gonna come across with a difference yamadengifaka. Yaweka melithini elithi difference ukuthi level. Ekugcina so futhi uyayibona inamba yami le ivela nje ube njalo because ngisebenzise 2021. So try lo zobuya nje ubunjalo ungene la. But because mina ngifuna difference ka 2021 no 2020, I will have to use minus now. So when I get in here on my field, I'm gonna have to say minus. Again, because ngifuna ukusebenzisa u2020, I'll use the block bracket and then level space 2021. Even space is in the effect siba nayo into your computer. Njoba lo 2021 lo ene space phakathi kuona no 2020 ene space. Uma ngabe u2020 wakho ungasifaka space, then you're gonna have a problem because it won't read your field. It only reads it as it is written, exactly as it is written. So press enter now and then I run it. So when you run it, you can actually see now it's different la 1 because here with 2020 it was 2. Then with 2021 there were 3. So it's different njengamanje so kubani seku 1. But bearing in mind ukuthi ngo2020 mabe ukuthi ngena ayikade ewu2, then manje ngo2021 asewu3, futhi difference asethe ukudeka unless otherwise kukhona difference enobani enominus. In this case difference asinayo ngoba iwu0. So if there were 6 ngo2020 and manje ngo2021 asewu5 sekusele u1. So what we're supposed here to have, we're supposed to have a positive number, not a negative number. At least 2021 mawuthi asandile sizoba nobani, soba no positive number. If there were 2 asewu3 manje sesino 1. But if there were 10 asewu3 manje futhi u7 wonke awusekho. So ngamagama we don't have a positive number there. Okay, again with your query you don't necessarily have to worry about changing the views. Umushintsha view kufanele ukuthi wasave. Every time you change the view, you finish whatever you do, unless otherwise ukuthi usufuna ukuyivala, then you can actually save. Okay, this part was just one question. Right, last question. Create a report 5_6 based on table status. Now, see, we don't have any report. Each report is based on something. So whenever you are creating something, it must be based on something. In this case, it must be based on a table or a query or a form. In this case, it says it must be based on a table. Your table is table status. As I've mentioned earlier on, you come to create. Only a query lawusemsa khona design. The rest we use a wizard. For your form, it's your wizard. For your report, is your wizard. So here you are required to create a report. So Sizuyagu wizard. This is a report wizard. Yabuya for the question. Your query, or rather your report, is based on what? Your report is based on table status. Let us verify. Your report is based on table status. So for now, on queries and reports, we choose a status. You cannot change or you cannot use query query and go back to table table or go back to query 5 query 5. The only thing that you need to do or you need to understand is that you can only use one table or one query. Remember these arrows again. This one is our fanga walk feed. This one is our bisele move. This one is our fanga 1-1. This one is our bisele move 1-1. So here, which your report must display the species, scientific name, and the red list 2021 field. So stingama field amangakela 1, 2, 3. Species, scientific name, and the red list. Species, scientific name, and the red list 2021. Then you press on next. The next instruction, the records must be grouped by the species field. Now remember grouping ukuthi umsebenzi wayo yini na ukuthi whatever losukwenza ukuthi kubeke ngeorder. Mawuthi sifuna izingane zaka grade 8 so ibeka ngeorder ka 8 nezaka 9. Masifuna amantombazana wodwa so ibeka amantombazana wodwa. Masifuna abantwana abana 10 to 15 so ibeka 10 to 15 or 16 to 19. So grouping yakhe isebenza kanjalo. In this case, because ama species ethu ahlukahlukene, so sizowa group ama species ngawodwa ukuthi lama species lawa awabendaweni yawodwa. So that is how this part of grouping will actually work. Insert a function at the bottom of every group that will determine the total number of records per group. So we move on. Like grouping options, you can actually decide ukuthi grouping intervals yakho uzowenza ngobani, normal, first letter, or 2 initial letters, etc. So this one does not necessarily apply kakhulu kuthina. You go back here and then here on the option yokuthi ufake alphabetical order. So looking at the question, ayekho part ekhuluma alphabetical order. So you can actually select scientific name ufuna wona, and then you can select red list ufuna wona. But in this case, it's none. And then you press on next. When it comes to layout, it's very rare to block no outline. But whenever they tell you, you can actually find your layout here. And then when it comes to orientation again, they always tell you what is a type orientation. But if you leave the current orientation as it is. Then you move to next. Now the last part here, in our options are 2. It's either you preview the report or you modify the report's design. Because questions 8 here, there's one group that is missing, and that particular group, there was no way for us to do it. Modify. You can always do a modification even after you have previewed your report. So you don't have to worry about who to preview it and also was being modified. Even if you modify your report, you can always preview once a modification. So this thing works either way. But preview in most cases into so this is the case. Remember, this is how it actually looks. In the grouping. Our alphabetical order by likely is ordered according to our scientific name. This is scientific name, this is the red list 2021. But our species are here on the amphibians. Walk amphibians as angry report ayod. So when you move on to the next page, you notice ama-bonifish angene endaweni eyodwa. When you move on to the next page, you notice ukuthi different ones, okay, because ama-bonifish they look like maningi kakhulu. So naka ama-mammals now futhi angene endaweni eyodwa. This is the preview of your report. Then you close the preview down there, or rather up there. So by default, once you close, sekuvela a modification whereby you can actually decide what you modify kanjani report lakho. Now, must be back here to the last question. The last question is asking us at the bottom of every group to determine the total number of records. So here we are back manje, total number of records. So we have to go down here. La mubheka la is no page footer, mubheka la phana is no report footer. When you change your view to design view, this is your page footer. Okay. This is your page footer. This is your report footer. A page footer is ekugcineni kwe-document yakho, while a report footer is ekugcineni kwe-report yakho. So page noma page yakho ewu-30 ma depending ukuthi usazi yakho ama-page yakho usuke ubani. I'm actually looking for something here. What is happening? Report. Okay. Develop a report. Now here, this is the end of your page. Like page like, so you're gonna find it date and time, nama page numberings. Umwabheka uzawubona kuphi? Uzawubona check it design view, uzawubona kwi page footer. So long page lakho izobe nama page footer. But whenever you're putting a report footer, you'll have to use a formula again like you do with your Excel. So a formula yakho moyisebenzisa ufuna usebenzise these two things, either your text box or your label. So we're gonna use our label. Mabe ukuthi ufuna ukubhala igama. So for an example, we're gonna say Go Digital SA. So this is how it's gonna appear like whenever you change your view. Okay, let me change it to print preview. Go to the last page. This is Go Digital SA. So what does this mean now? It means ngoba ngifake field yami lapha ya ku report footer ngizoyithola ekugcineni. Kodwa uma ku page footer ngizoyithola kuphela ekuqaleni. Okay. Maybe the only thing that we have actually missed to do here is the formula for our report footer. But remember, whenever you are doing a formula, you use a text box. A text box will allow you to put in the name of the field and the function here. So your function must start with an equal sign as it happens with your Excel. It's covered in most of the papers. Surely you'll be able to survive your final exam and your trial exam with what you've covered with database. We're coming again next week with HTML. Thank you very much for your time. Let us call it an hour. Bye-bye.
Ningakhohlwa ukuthi nisengathokozela ezinye izifundo eziyisithupha kanye nezengeziwe i-Learner Wellness, i-Career Guidance kanye ne-Advanced Program. Hlanganyela nathi kwizifundo ezi-online ku-068 151 1072 noma ku-GoDigi@godigitalsa.today.